Subcommittee. First up, we are going to hear Senator Rehder's Senate Bill 368. Thompson Rehder, sorry. Senator, when you get ready, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate y'all hearing this bill so quickly. I know it just got referred, and I appreciate that so much. So this bill is, it's something that actually I had come up against, and then found out that a lot of other women have as well. And what this bill would do is it would require that health benefit plans that provide coverage for synthetic hormone therapy would also provide coverage for bioidentical hormone therapy. Subject to the same cost sharing and other limitations that apply to the synthetic hormone therapy. And what I found in just researching this and trying to figure it out, so for those on the committee who might not know, when women go through menopause or start in menopause, you often will elect to do hormone therapy. And so you have 50% of the population about that goes through menopause. And but the insurance coverage, really, it looks like it just hasn't been changed in 30 years. And so it covers a lot of just, the injections, monthly injections, or the more expensive type of hormone therapy. But the bioidentical, which has been out for a while now, is more natural, and it's the medication, it's pellets, the medication that is put under your skin, and then it dissolves a slow release over several months. And so it appears, in just the research that I've done, is that our insurance companies just hasn't updated the way that, as medicine has changed with what works best in this area. And so what my bill is trying to do, what I'm trying to do, is just make it, we have a lot of women who are paying out of pocket, and it's very expensive, but they elect this type of hormone treatment because it is healthier for you. It has less side effects, but the things that that happen to your health when you don't have hormone replacement during menopause is much more expensive, and so you're actually in the doctors more frequently. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. This is something that I've not seen done anywhere. I wanted to bring it about and just see what we might be able to get done and be helpful.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? I'm sure these guys have a lot of questions for the bill sponsor.
I bet so. I bet so. I did have this last year as an amendment, but really haven't had many speak to me about it this year since I filed it, and so hopefully we will have some good discussion.
Okay, being serious, any questions for the bill sponsor? I think you've explained it thoroughly. Thank you, Senator. Is there anyone here wishing to testify in favor of Senate Bill 368? Please come forward at this point in time. Seeing none, anyone here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 368? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 368? We have a taker.
Let's talk menopause.
That's all right, Madam Chair. I could see everyone was struggling, so being a menopause expert, I thought I'd come up and provide some information. I do live with this, so I do feel like I'm a professional. But Shannon Cooper on behalf of Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City today, we just want to provide some information on how our company handles this. And currently right now, we allow this as long as the components are FDA approved. So we don't have an issue with it as long as what we're blending together has been approved by the FDA. So that's all I have, and happy to try and answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none,
Thank you,
thank you for
Madam
your
Chair.
testimony. Anyone else here wishing to testify for informational purposes only?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Michael Henderson for the Missouri Insurance Coalition. We represent a number of health insurers. Not sure, like Mr. Cooper's member, whether and to what extent each one of my members covers these drugs, but we have not received any negative feedback on this bill. I do not anticipate any. We're very happy to learn more about the bill as the sponsor presented it today. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank
Thank
you
you.
for your testimony. Anyone else here wishing to testify for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 368? Seeing none, Senator, do you have any closing comments?
No, I just appreciate you hearing it so
Absolutely.
quickly. Thank you.
This will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 368. And next up, we will hear House Committee Substitute for House Bill 655. Representative Knight, you may come forward when you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Jeff Knight of the 142nd, representing Dallas County and parts of Laclede and Camden, here to present House Committee Substitute for House Bill 655 today. This bill addresses the privatizing of Missouri Employees Mutual Insurance Company. It addresses some liability issues with aviation insurance. And it also, the underlying bill addresses lender-placed insurance on mortgage properties. It has passed out of every committee it's been in, and both the House and Senate chambers unanimously. And with that, I'm sure the experts behind me would be glad to answer any of your questions.
Questions for this bill sponsor? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. First we'll hear witnesses in favor of House Committee Substitute for House Bill 655. Please come forward at this time.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Michael Henderson for the Missouri Insurance Coalition, want to go on record in favor of this bill. A lot of these provisions, the lender-placed insurance is identical to Senate Bill 101, which was voted out of this committee 7-0 and the Senate 33-0. Likewise, the Missouri Employers Mutual Privatization piece, Senate Bill 181 in this committee voted out 7-0. I believe it passed also 33-0 on the floor. The aircraft insurance piece is a compromise language between insurance carriers, aircraft owners, and the Department of Commerce and Insurance. Luke Reed with the Department of Commerce and Insurance was unable to stay for today's hearing, but did want me to mention that the DCI is in full support of the compromise language on the aircraft insurance, which is similar to a bill that the Vice Chair has also filed this year. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? I just have maybe a question or comment. Would you talk about that aircraft insurance just a little bit more in detail?
Sure.
Because we've already had the other two, and that's the only piece. And for the committee's information, I would really like to vote this bill out today, even though we're hearing the bill today, and this aircraft piece is the only thing that we have not heard before that we're going to put in a sub. So would you care to go into a little bit more detail about that? Can
Absolutely,
you do that?
Madam Chair. And so we all know we have the property portion and the casualty portion of an insurance policy. Under current law, the property portion of aircraft insurance, carriers are not required to file what are called rate filings with the Department of Commerce and Insurance. It is an unregulated product. It makes sense in the aircraft space. You typically have very sophisticated parties on both sides, aircraft owners and insurance carriers, who are negotiating these contracts. So the fact that they are not required to file those rate filings on the property portion makes sense. Likewise, it is a market where carriers need a lot of flexibility just due to the variability of types of aircraft, types of pilots, those sorts of things. There has been some question over the last couple of years on the casualty portion of the aircraft policy as to whether and to what extent carriers need to file rate filings on the casualty portion of the policy with the Department of Commerce and Insurance. For the last 18 months or so, my organization, a number of aircraft owners, their representatives, and the DCI have looked at possible solutions for how to address the uncertainty surrounding the casualty portion. What the DCI's preferred method was just to add that casualty portion of the policy to the exemption currently enjoyed by the property portion of the policy. So after this change in effect, you will have aircraft insurance as an essentially unregulated product, to where carriers are not filing their rate filings with the Department of Commerce and Insurance. Again, too sophisticated commercial parties, variability required in the market. We understand Illinois and a number of other states operate this way in the aircraft market, so it makes sense for Missouri to join that. And again, that's the preferred method that the DCI would like to see, and we're in full support of that.
And just for clarification, this came from a constituent. Will this make it a lot easier for the pilots to get insurance in the state of Missouri, where some of them are having to go out of state now to do that? Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That was my understanding as well. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Good
Question for this witness. Seeing none, thank you
Thank
for
you.
testimony. Next up, in favor of House Committee substitute for House Bill 655.
Thank you, Chair Crawford and members of the committee. I'm Jennifer Barth. I'm Vice President and Chief Legal Officer for Missouri Employers Mutual, or MEM. You've already heard testimony in support of MEM privatization as part of Senate Bill 181, but we want to reiterate our support for this bill. First, privatization allows, privatization allows MEM to transition from government control to compete on an equal playing field with other private carriers in the market. Second, an increased ability to compete will result in lower rates for Missouri businesses and help retain and attract more business to Missouri. Third, this legislation will benefit our current policyholders and our vast agency force, but will also help those Missouri businesses that have offices outside the state that we cannot effectively serve today. So there was a need for MEM when we were created to solve a crisis in the market, and we've helped accomplish that. Today, the Missouri workers' comp market is healthy, competitive, and stable. Privatization will enable MEM to continue to evolve to meet the changing needs of business in Missouri today and into the future. Thank you for your time. I welcome any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up, in favor of House Committee substitute for House Bill 655.
Chair, members of the committee, Jessica Petrie here on behalf of St. Louis County. The previous witness from the Insurance Coalition, I think, did a really good job explaining the aircraft insurance provisions. But the spirit of St. Louis Airport is in St. Louis County, and so we've heard similar concerns that the previous witness talked about pilots not being able to get insurance at a reasonable rate, and we think that will help address that. So we appreciate the sponsor's work on this issue.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up, in favor. Seeing none. Anyone here wishing to testify in opposition to House Committee substitute for House Bill 655?
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman.
Good
members
morning.
of the committee. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, State Public Advocate, and I testified against this bill in the House, and I'm still against the bill. This aircraft insurance and the insurance industry overall, it's a private matter, and it's choice. It shouldn't be forced down the throats of Missourians. It's peril at your own risk. I would like to see an amendment that you take out the aircraft portion of it. This is a special interest bill. It serves lenders and carrier companies, but doesn't serve the consumers of Missouri. And so, as I said, it's peril at your own risk. And I feel that Missourians are intelligent enough to know if they have an asset, that if they need insurance or not, and I don't think it should be forced upon by state government. Therefore, I'm opposed to this bill as I was opposed at the House of Representatives. Thank you.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else here wishing to testify in opposition to House Committee Substitute for House Bill 655? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only for House Committee Substitute for House Bill 655? Seeing none, Representative, any final comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to remind the members of the committee of the Senate handler of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for those final comments, Representative. All right. We are going to establish a quorum, and so, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford. Here. Trent. Here. Brown. Here. Hoskins. Huff. Here. Mosley. Roberts.
Senator Mosley was here previously, so she just stepped out for a moment. I make a motion that we go into executive session. I have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And the ayes have it. We're now in executive session. Okay. I now move that we take up Senate Bill 521. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is my bill that we heard last week relating to the second injury fund and reducing the fees and extending the sunset. I do have a committee sub, and I move that we adopt that committee sub. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? And I might just add that I did have the hearing on the committee sub, so we haven't made any changes since the hearing last week. Any further discussion on the substitute? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the substitute, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I now move that we vote Senate Bill 521 with Senate Committee substitute out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any final discussion? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Aye. Brown. Aye. Hoskins. Aye. Huff. Aye. Mosley. Roberts.
By your vote of 5-1, you do pass Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 521. For the senators that came in late, with your approval, I would like to vote out Representative Knight's bill today. There were three measures in his bill, two of which we've already heard voted out of this committee and the entire Senate with little to no opposition. The only new piece was the aircraft insurance. Senator Trent does have that bill filed, but we have not had a hearing on it yet. If you have any, anyone have any questions maybe on that aircraft piece, since we haven't heard it yet? Seeing none. Would the committee be okay with voting that out? I do not plan to have a committee meeting next week since Monday's a holiday, and I don't figure anyone wants to come in at 11 or 12 next Tuesday. So I would like to go ahead and get this moved out. Is that okay with committee? Okay with that? All right. Normally I wouldn't do that, but since we've heard most of the bill already and because of next week, I would like to do that. One other piece. We have heard several bills this year in this committee that have had little to no opposition. We have prepared a substitute for the House Committee sub. It would include, of course, the lender-placed insurance, the MEM piece, the aircraft piece, also the second injury fund, which we just voted out of here today. And it also would include Senator Esslinger's piece dealing with the motor vehicle financial responsibility piece, which we've already passed out of this committee. Again, little to no opposition with all these bills. I would like to roll all those into a sub if that is the committee's wish, or if you would allow me to do that. So I guess we'll find out. So I move that we take up House Committee substitute for House Bill 655. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. And the ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Again, we've kind of gone over what was in the bill. I do have a committee sub. You should have received that via email, and there's one in your folder. the one thing I would that I did not mention on the lender-placed insurance, the House version was slightly different than the Senate version, and this Senate substitute makes the House version match our version that we have already voted out. So that's the only odd piece in this. So I move that we adopt the committee sub. Did I already do that? All right. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion on the substitute? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the substitute, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I now move that we vote House Committee substitute for House Bill 655 with Senate Committee substitute out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any final discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Brown. Hoskins. Huff. Mosley. Roberts.
By your vote of 5-0, you have do passed Senate Committee substitute for House Committee substitute for House Bill 655. We will now move to Senate Bill 342. I move that we take up Senate Bill 342. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is Senator Trent's bill that we heard last week dealing with consumer legal funding. And I move that we vote Senate Bill 342 out of committee. Do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Brown. Hoskins. Huff. Mosley. Roberts.
By your vote of 5-0, you have do pass Senate Bill 342. Do pass. All right, I now move that we take up Senate Bill 26. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is Senator Brown's bill that we heard several weeks ago dealing with insurance coverage of pharmacy services. I think the parties have worked. I'll be very honest, I don't really think there's an agreement at this point in time, but Senator Brown would like us to vote this out of committee to move it along in the process, and so I told him that we would attempt to do that today, and so I move that we vote Senate Bill 26 out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Brown. Hoskins. Huff. Mosley. Roberts.
By your vote of 5-0, you have do pass Senate Bill 26. I make a motion that we go out of executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I now make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Okay. You're welcome. Just let me know. Keep me posted on that other deal. Yeah.